Rocklear runs up to him, and he looks down, you know, all these units running by, and he says, sir, get up. You embarrassing me. Will, in with that little battalion, if you just had the time, from private to colonel, just listen to some of the things that these soldiers saw, you know, what they did. Oh my goodness, that is just, you know, the funniest stuff, you know, most interesting stuff you ever, want to hear.
Marshall in the middle.
I got a chance to revisit my talk with Command Sergeant Major Adams, Wilbur V. Adams, the Bear, and re-edited a little bit and getting ready to put it back out. 2016 I talked to him, had a great conversation, and I love that guy. He's a great leader, such a cool guy to just be around. His voice is so calming somehow, but I hope you enjoy Wilbur V. Adams, Heroes I Know.
You know, we spent some time together, you know, went through a night or two of interesting times, and even more though, you really guided me in a lot of things in my life, and I'm not sure I ever adequately told you thank you. And so thank you very much for what you've done. I really appreciate it.
Well, I will tell you this. I enjoy every moment that we spent together as soldiers and leaders of soldiers, and anything that I was able to do to provide any form of comfort or guidance. You know, not only was it my job, it was my pleasure. You were definitely one of the guys that made life better for me, without question. And I ended up where I ended up because soldiers, NCOs like you, didn't just give, 70, 80%. I mean, when you came to work, man, you gave it all you had every day. And a lot of us benefited from that. And I'm thanking you. You don't need to thank me. I need to be thanking you.
Oh my gosh. So it's interesting, Sergeant Major. I appreciate the thanks right back. I really do. Let me tell you who I had a chance to talk to the other day. Do you remember Sergeant Friend?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Early in my career, I was like specialist or a young sergeant, and he was a PFC or a specialist. We got entangled together. We were a high altitude entanglement out of a C-141 one day. And
wow.
So not long ago, we had a chance to talk. I recorded our conversation. I'm going to share that conversation before long I've got his permission to do so. It's a really interesting story to hear. You know, I'd love to hear and record the stories that you and I would have out of our Operation Just About, I think we called it, when we went to Haiti.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man, wasn't that something, man?
Dude, so
that was absolutely something. I mean, for something to not happen, I mean, the intrigue and all that we gathered from that was absolutely amazing. I mean, a lot of times when you go through the 96-hour sequence and it doesn't happen, a lot of it is, okay, well, we'll pack it up until we do it again. But there was a lot of interesting things that went on during that time. And believe it or not, I was working up at Aberdeen Proving Ground up in Maryland with my company doing some tests. And I was in the PX, and I was standing behind a 2-star general. And he was talking to the cashier. And he turned around and he looked at me. And he says, I know you from somewhere. And I'm talking about
What happened?
At that moment, we went back.
I thought that was me for a while. I was confused. I don't use this Yahoo Messenger very often, but I saw that it would we might be able to just absolutely link up right away, and I was like, let's do it while the iron's hot. Because
absolutely.
sometimes if you miss it, you miss it, you know?
Right. And he turned around and he said, I know you from somewhere. And I'm looking at this guy, and the last time I saw him, he was a major, and he was on our aircraft, and he was from 82nd Signal Battalion. And I said, sir, you and I were on the same aircraft going in Haiti.
Wow.
And he said, how can you remember that? I said, sir, you just wouldn't believe. I said, NCO, we don't forget nothing.
Oh, wow.
I said, me and Marshall remember that doggone grenade coming loose and rolling down the ramp.
Okay.
I said, we remember all of that stuff.
Okay, Sergeant Major, you got to tell. So I am recording a conversation with Command Sergeant Major Wilbur V. Adams. He's known as the Bear. All right, he shaped more people in my sphere of world. Okay, if you're listening to this, you're listening to me because you know me for some reason. I bet you know or have heard stories about the guy that's telling this story, okay? He and I were on an airplane together going to Haiti that got turned around before the jump happened. We were loaded like sons of bitches from top to bottom. You couldn't be no heavier. You couldn't be no bigger. You couldn't stuff no more on there. And we were going to go there and we were going to kick some ass. So Sergeant Major, tell me the story, what you remember of that, because I've told this story for years, and I just wonder if, do you want me to tell it first and you fill it in, or do you want to tell it and
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so I'll be vulnerable here. So what I remember is we had been to war and back without ever leaving the airplane, all right? So if I'm telling this story, we had prepared for war, prepped like you have no idea, twice. And then the second time we get up on the airplane and we fly away. I mean, our buttholes were puckered so tight. We had a briefing, Sergeant Major, remember the briefing where they made us like sign something saying we wouldn't jump out of the airplane? Remember that?
Yeah, Colonel Abigail.
Yes.
During that briefing, this guy went on to be a 4-star with CENTCOM.
Yes.
He told us, he says, don't let me find any of you safeties on the ground. That's exactly what he said.
Okay, so to explain to people that might not get what we're talking about, there was a culture among us leaders at the level that Sergeant Major and I were, that having a combat jump was so important to our career and our self-worth that people were really worried. And I'll tell you that other people had talked about it. I wasn't jumping for shit with a BA-18 for no reason. I didn't want to be on the ground anyway, you know? Oh, God.
Right.
Oh, yes. Okay, so we had flown out, all packed for Bear. Sergeant Major and I were on the third C-130 of like 20 or
That's
something.
right.
We were on number 3. And we were flying. At one point, we had to fly straight through a thunderstorm. We were like hanging up in the air and bouncing all over the place. Lightning was striking everywhere.
It wasn't just a thunderstorm. We were flying through the Bermuda Triangle. That's what made it so damn scary.
You're right. You are absolutely right.
We were flying through the Bermuda Triangle, and I'm saying, why in the hell is it going so crazy out here? And the pilot says, over the intercom, said, man, we're flying through the Bermuda Triangle, so no telling what might happen. And so I said, oh my God.
Oh.
I said, to add fear to intrigue, I tell you, I said, who else but the 82nd could do something like that?
Oh my gosh. Hey, do you remember the Air Force photographer that we had on board? Do you remember that guy?
Oh yeah.
Oh
absolutely.
My God. He had like the cleanest uniform you've ever seen in the world. He was like strapped in. He had his little camera and his little tape recorder kind of thing, and all the rest of us were like looking like we ain't slept in 3 days. We didn't know what's going on.
Absolutely.
Whoa.
Absolutely.
We were trying to remember the challenging password, all that stuff. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Okay, so to continue kind of telling the story, one of the things that I always remember was at one point there was somebody that like raised their hand and said, "I've got to pee." And it was just like kind of like, okay, you got to pee. What? We can't do it. They gave us these little tubes. You remember the little tubes?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And
they gave us the little pee tube.
Yeah. And so the guy was like, "How do I use it?" And I'm like, "Dude, you take your shit off. It's on your own, man. I can't get to you." And he like in the middle of the thing, he was like halfway up, and he was on the port side, and I climbed up there and halfway, and he said, like, "I gotta pee," and I'm like, well.
And you know what? And I remember that so well. I mean, we were so packed in there. It was so much gear. You literally had to climb over the top of folks to get to this guy.
Yeah. And I think I came back and I told you, I'm like, well, what was I supposed to do? And you're like, hey, I don't know.
And I said, man, I'm glad that was you and not me.
Oh gosh. All right. So
I said, there's no way my big ass was gonna climb up over the top, and they wasn't gonna let me climb up over the top of them like you did.
Oh my gosh! Well,
I
still weigh like 165, 170 pounds back then. So tell me what you remember on that. We'll get to the great grenade story. So let's go back, if you don't mind, about that airplane. Tell me about that grenade.
Remember when they lowered the tailgate and we were getting the soldiers ready to disembark, and all of a sudden that doggone hand grenade hit the tailgate and start rolling off of the tailgate onto the tarmac. And you and I looked at each other. is this really happening? Did somebody just, is this, and we looked to make sure the pen was still in, and all of that. I mean, that was just something that was completely unexpected. And then, I thought about that years later, and I'm saying, what if in today's time, with all of the stuff that's going on with, with guys, wanting to end it all, but they're not going out by themselves. I mean, today, what we saw would take on a whole different look. I mean, what we saw then would take on a whole different look than it did at that time. We looked at it as, somebody lost control of an explosion. Today, somebody might assume that somebody's trying to kill us from within.
Absolutely. Oh, so I remember this much the same thing. So what had happened was, to finish the story about the pee, about halfway up, a guy had raised his hand and said, "I got to pee." I crawled up there to him.
Right.
I said, "I can't help you. There's not much I can do. Here's a tube." He kind of laughed. I came back, and not maybe, 5 minutes later, that whole bench seat is going, "Oh, man, you did. Oh, it's running down. It's getting me wet." They were all mad at him. It's dripping on the floor. And it wasn't probably about 10 to 15 minutes after that, we got the word that we were turning around.
Right.
You remember that? Remember that word? Remember getting turned around?
Absolutely.
Tell me about that. Tell me your thoughts on that.
One of the reporters from, I can't remember if it was ABC News or NBC News, but she was up on the tailgate and she was doing an interview. And we're talking about, what we could talk about as far as the mission was concerned, and, what, this meant to the people of Haiti, what it meant to our country, what it meant to, the 82nd to be embarking on the largest combat jump in history, of our Army. And as soon as the word came that we were turning around, how her emotion changed so quickly to being so interested in something, now all of a sudden it doesn't matter anymore. I mean, her emotions, it was just like turning the light switch on and off. And I said, man, how can she do that? I mean, I'm still, revving up inside and, thinking about, the sequence of events, going forward, going back, and then how she just thought, well, it's done. My job is over. I don't, all this other stuff doesn't matter anymore. And I saw the difference right then from a soldier doing their, preparing to do a job, and somebody from the media.
Very, very.
With her, it was only about, the carnage that was getting ready to happen on the ground. All the other stuff didn't matter, and that was kind of disappointing.
One of the things I remember, Sergeant Major, was very, very telling, interesting to me, was I saw the soldiers individually have two reactions. And it was very polarized which reaction it was. You had one group of soldiers that was so relieved that they weren't jumping out of that airplane and going to get shot at. And then you had a group of soldiers that were very, very upset that they weren't going to get a combat
They
jump.
were dejected. They were dejected.
Yeah, yeah. So it was wild, right? It wasn't. I didn't know how to think. I didn't know how to think about it because I'd already realized that I wasn't going to get some badge out of it. I wasn't.
Right,
but there were
right.
a group of people. I mean, but at that time in our culture, to get a jump was a big thing. To have a combat jump was a big thing. That's how
Right.
you.
Oh,
that's
my
how
goodness.
you rule a group of people with ribbons and awards and things. It is amazing.
Right, absolutely.
Amazing how influential that is.
But here is the thing. Here is the thing. When you peel back the onion and everybody being honest with each other, it was no more of a combat jump than jumping on Sicily. Because it wasn't like it was the Germans at Normandy waiting for you to hit the ground or anything like that. I mean, it was basically, you jumping in unopposed. It wasn't going to be anybody that brave to be on the ground aiming weapons at 15,000 paratroopers. That just wasn't going to happen. And so when you look at it realistically, when you look at it honestly, it was about the folklore, the idea that you were now 0.1000000% of any all soldiers that ever jumped out of an airplane to have that star in the middle of your airborne wings. And but the fact that we called it a combat jump was just they determined that because you had the potential of being shot at, then you were going to get that credit. I mean, we jumped in Saudi Arabia and Kuwait, where there was more stuff aimed at us than ever could have been aimed at us in Haiti. And I don't know, nobody talked about, putting a star, on your wings there.
Right.
And I don't know.
It's funny.
And and that's just my my approach, to it. And you'll have other guys, saying something, 180 degrees different. But the fact that we're in position to have the discussion, I'm going to respect your point of view, and in kind, for us to even be having this conversation, you obviously respect mine.
Oh, heck yeah. You're one of my heroes.
Oh man, this is great, man. I can't remember the last time I had this much fun talking with one of you guys. I think talking with old crazy Maggot a couple weeks ago at the hospital, he had me rolling.
Oh my gosh, Maggot is, he's getting through. He's doing all right. I haven't talked to him in a couple weeks myself. I guess, I sure hope he pulls through and they get it figured out. I can't even imagine it. I would hope, if you don't mind, I would like to edit some of this stuff, but I would, if you don't mind, have permission maybe to post some of this up on Facebook as we tell stories.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
there's some of those stories, if we don't start capturing them and putting them out there, and I'm going to make sure this gets in the recording. If anybody has a story, an Army story that they want to tell, call me. I want to hear it. I want to hear the story. I want to record it, and let's put it in social media so we can record some of these things and understand that. We just told the story tonight about the grenade coming off the tailgate of the aircraft. That was awesome.
Man, I will tell you, Will, in with that little battalion, if you just had the time, from private to colonel, just listen to some of the things that these soldiers saw, you know, what they did. Oh my goodness, that is just, you know, the funniest stuff, you know, most interesting stuff you ever, want to hear, want to talk about. I remember talking with Delton Locklear. He was, I think he was Charlie 91st.
Yes, he was my first sergeant. He was the one that told me I had to go compete to be the NCO of the year. He was the one that made me do it. I didn't volunteer to do anything like that.
And I think, was Chapel the battery commander?
I believe he was.
And Locklear tells the story about, I think, something what happened to Chapel on a battalion run, and he fell ill. And so he stopped and he laid down on the side of the road, and somebody was calling, you know, for a medic. Locklear runs up to him and he looks down, you know, all these units running by, and he says, Sir, get up. You embarrassing me. I said, this man is about to die. Locklear talking about the man with the goat. The man is embarrassing him.
That's the culture. That was it.
I tell you. Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Hey, remember when, so Flag and several others like Flag used to like to run down the center line of that road. Center line, you remember? You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, just begging for... Do you remember the story of when Delta Battery's dog, the bulldog mascot, went and bit somebody and then there was a fight? Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
Is that true or is that...
That was true.
It's true.
That was true.
It's true. That's true.
That was true.
Oh, my gosh. I know one that's true. Cuddy, Sergeant Major Kendrick. Were you around when Kendrick was around?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So I'll never forget the day that we're standing on the out in the field. We're all out doing battalion PT, and they had just come out with the kindler, gentler cadence. We couldn't sing certain things anymore, okay? And Kendrick calls everybody in really close, you know, and how he talks, right? And he says, all right, listen up, all you motherfuckers, listen up. They say we can't talk about no motherfucking females. We can't talk about no motherfucking communists. And we can't be talking about no motherfucking legs. So just so you know, don't be talking about no motherfucking communists and legs and females. Now get back in fucking formation. Fall in.
That was him.
Oh, my God. And the commander, so I don't remember who the commander was that day. I would love to it might have been Hampsey. Captain Hampsey. I don't know. But I think I was in Charlie Battery and an NCO at the time because I always worried about calling cadence. I was good at it enough that I could like sing a little bit, but please don't make me like carry on for like an hour, as I don't know too many. But I'll get out there and sing, you know.
It was the guy before him.
Was it? And so anyway,
what was his name?
So whoever the commander was, for whatever reason, he says, I'm calling cadence first today. And all the NCOs were like, oh, what? The commander did the best thing I've ever heard a commander do before. He made such a farce of cadence for the first mile that we sounded off like you have no idea. We made cadence about the stop sign, about the oak tree, about the building, about the stupidest shit he made cadence about, and we sounded off and we laughed and we found a way as a unit to get through that and realize that we could find ways to be motivated together without singing bad cadence. And that was really cool what he did. It was really cool what he did. And I've always, as I remember, think back on that time and tell that story, I wish I could go back to that guy and hear what he had to say and why he did what he did. Lots of good Americans during those times. Lot of great Americans we know, right?
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Sergeant Major, thanks for the advice, and I appreciate you listening and you know your guidance, and I really do appreciate you just taking a moment to reminisce with me. And I've got this on tape, and I'm going to look at it and edit it a little bit and throw it out there on YouTube or Facebook. And there are guys that would absolutely love to have the conversation with you that I have had with you tonight. Hundreds of guys. You are revered.
Well, I don't know about that, but
you are revered like you don't even know. You're revered like you have no idea. You shaped men's lives in ways, and women's lives in ways that is not soon forgot by an entire generation of air defenders and other soldiers. All kinds of soldiers. So,
well, I appreciate it.
Thanks for what you've done. You've had an amazing impact in my life, and thanks again. I've been talking with Command Sergeant Major Wilbur V. Adams, the Bear. It did everything that you could possibly do as a leader in the air defense branch of the Army, and has at every level been the epitome of what an American looks like in today's times. So thanks for talking with me, Sergeant Major. I sure do appreciate it.
All right, my friend. You take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.